Hi, everyone. Thanks for coming, joining us. We would like to welcome you to our second award ceremony over Zoom. This year marks the 31st publication of the Eye. Last year, with safety lockdowns due to you know what, created lots of difficulty in a lot of areas, and publishing that edition was no different and proved very challenging for us. We had to jump through a few things. We met every day, once a week rather, as we would normally do over Zoom, just to get that done and everything to get it out. And this year we had a very small group of editors, and so that was challenging as well. And we had to sort through all kinds of great submissions. That was, some of our decisions were very hard to make on in some areas, but we had a good time. We missed out on all the snacks and stuff, but hey, so with all that being said, the Eye would not exist as the award-winning journal that it is without all of us working in concert together to make it happen. So I thank everybody involved behind the scenes as well. And I am proud to be a part of it, and I am honored to acknowledge and recognize everybody's talents here today that will be displayed within the book.
Great. Thank you, Brian.
Paula, you forgot to hit record.
Oh, no, it says recording. I can see the recording button.
Oh, okay.
Good. So our next order of business, we are going to present some Editor's Choice Awards and the award to our cover artist as well. I'm going to share my screen. Whoops. And the awards will be presented by Brian Melendi, the president of the Eye, and Melissa Sprague, the vice president of the Eye. Brian, would you like to go ahead and present the cover award?
There we go. Sorry, I was on mute. So this one goes to our cover award artist, Emily Dallaire, for her sumptuous and spellbinding artwork entitled Shattered, which graces the cover of our 2021 edition. And there it is.
And Melissa, would you like to present the next award?
Hi, my name is Melissa. I apologize. I have a dog barking in the background. During the year of 2020, the Eye issued a call for submissions related to race and social change. And later on, we issued another call for submissions related to COVID-19. So this compelling piece of artwork, it relates to both. This artwork was also submitted to the New Hampshire Humanities Collaborative's Making Sense of COVID Symposium, which means that it will be displayed in the coming years at the Art Gallery at Great Bay Community College, where you can view it. It's my privilege to announce an Editor's Choice Award to Annabelle Katrubis for her compelling and timely artwork, A Fragment of 2020, a sensitive testament to this challenging, momentous year's events. Thanks, Annabelle.
And Melissa, you can continue on with the next award.
Sure. So this beautiful and moving poem was also submitted in response to our call for pieces on social change. It relates to the Me Too movement and comes to us from another participant in the Making Sense of COVID Symposium. We're extremely pleased to award an Editor's Choice to Rebecca Nunn for her inspiring and lyrical poem, Proper Love, an authentic and vulnerable testament to the pain of abuse and the redemptive power of proper love. Thanks, Rebecca.
And Brian, you can present the next one.
Okay, so this one goes to, and forgive me if I pronounce it wrong, I'm going to do my best, Fisto Ndiashimia, for his awesome essay on clean water in Africa, that it was well researched and took a firsthand look at the important issues affecting Africa and the environmental causes and things worldwide. And it opens it up to people who we may not know about. I mean, we're aware of these things, but this is a firsthand account, and it is a great piece, and it is well deserved. And congratulations, Fisto.
Melissa.
So this truly amazing piece brings us a valuable and more diverse perspective and life experience. It was written by one of our wonderful international students who was born in a Rwandan refugee camp only 2 months after her family arrived from fleeing the Congo. We are so incredibly fortunate to have this person here as a citizen and as part of our community at NHTI. I feel truly privileged to announce an Editor's Choice Award to Shakari Biamenikora for her authentic autobiographical narrative, A Life Without a Home, a vivid and deeply personal portrayal of the refugee experience. Thanks, Shakari.
So this Editor's Choice Award goes to Juliana LaMafia for her essay On the Other Side. It's a heart-wrenching, first-hand account filled with intimate knowledge and life on loss experience in a healthcare worker in a hot zone during the global pandemic. Good work, Julia, and thanks for your submission.
And I think that one of our certificates, in scanning them in, was deleted. I don't see it here, but Brian, you were going to also present the Editor's Choice Award to Carol Flavin Veenstra for A Day in the Life of. Would you like to present that one?
Yeah, that's right. It wasn't on my list either. So, but Carol wrote a great piece. We had many discussions about in our meetings, and so she is getting an award for her unique outlook. I can't quite remember the name of the piece. I don't have it here in front of me. I do apologize, Carol. No disrespect. I missed you at some of our meetings. You always made me laugh, and I am glad that you were being recognized and getting this award. Congratulations. A Day in the Life of, that's the name of it. Thank you, Melissa.
Thank you. And Melissa, would you like to do the next award?
Sure. Did we not do this one already?
I think we didn't do Juliana's. Do you see Juliana's?
I think Brian did this one, but I will happily do it again.
Okay.
Juliana, your work is wonderful, and we're really glad to have it. Juliana Lamalfa, for your essay, The Other Side, a heart-wrenching firsthand account filled with intimate knowledge of life and loss experienced as a healthcare worker in a hot zone during a global pandemic. Thank you so much for this contribution, Juliana.
And Juliana is a healthcare worker who I am told is working today until 12:30. Will be joining us on her lunch break. And so we may repeat this award a little bit later so that perhaps she can hear it while she's able to be with us on her lunch break. So Thank you. The next three awards I would like to present, they are to members of the I, members of our leadership team, our executive board, who have done incredible work this year. Again, I think sometimes it's hard in a time like this to find time just for your coursework and your employment and your family responsibilities, or in the case of a couple of our editors, time to walk the dog as well. And the ways that they have gone above and beyond this year and in past years has really been quite remarkable. It would take me more time than we have here today to talk about the many things that we've done, whether it has been traveling to conferences in New York City to learn to be better writers and editors, whether it has been community events that really enhance our community in person and online, and bring more light than heat to important issues of the day. Even as we reached out to the community for pieces to do with race and social change, our editors were nervous about how to approach that and wanted to do it in a good way, in an intentional way, with empathy and compassion. And so they spent some of their hard-earned money that the I had raised to hire a trainer to help them really think about what they publish and the language they use and how best to represent our campus community. Brian Melendi is one of those people. He has been the vice president of the I. He has been the coordinator for a lot of our campus reads initiatives. He was the moderator for our pandemic panel discussion. Those are words I thought I would never say as a literary journal advisor, pandemic panel discussion. And over the summer, Brian met with other I editors every week and put together last spring, really, a special pandemic edition online in which students shared photos and narratives and research about the pandemic. So thank you so much, Brian. Thank you for all that you do. It really has been, I can tell it has been a labor of love on your part, and I know you will take it to great places in the future too. Congratulations. Melissa Sprague joined us as the vice president of the I this year. And she's an education major at NHTI with a variety of interests ranging from the social sciences, particularly anthropology, to education and literature. I've been fortunate to have her both in class and as a member of the I, and she has done incredible work. It's a bit of a cliche to say that somebody has gone above and beyond, but Melissa also undertook a project, an oral history project, that involved collecting oral histories of people affected by COVID, whether they were affected as a healthcare worker, a student, even an exchange student doing their coursework with a 12-hour difference from another country. And Melissa has brought a keen eye to the I as an editor, reading and thinking deeply about the issues. Melissa is also a wonderful writer who has contributed poetry and research and creative nonfiction narrative essays to this volume. And thank you for all you've done and just the keen intellect that you bring to your work, Melissa. And the last editor that I would like to recognize with the Most Dedicated Editor Award is Rachel Pitt. Rachel Pitt has been an editor with the I for several years and a hardworking editor of the I for several years. I will say it's not because it's taken her that long to complete her degree. She will graduate this spring with 3 degrees and a 4.0 grade point average. Some of you, before we began, were talking about anatomy and physiology, and you may have encountered her as she's one of the tutors in the ACE, particularly doing a great job with anatomy and physiology students. So Rachel Pitt, we have not seen her in person much this year. We used to enjoy Rachel and her canine editors that would sometimes accompany her. We love our canine editors. But Rachel's behind the scenes work has involved reading a great number of submissions, but she's also been our treasurer, signing for the books that you will receive, the printed and bound volumes that you will hold in your hands, preparing our budget, making sure we make wise use of our funds. She's also been our systems manager, our file manager, and making sure that every submission was put into a color-coded folder and read. In past years, before we had Rachel, sometimes submissions fell through the cracks, and that was always unfortunate. So we really appreciate how methodical, the wonderful attention to detail, and the care that Rachel has given to each and every one of your submissions that has helped it to be published today. We will miss you with your graduation, but we have many alumni who return to say hello, and we hope that Rachel and her canine editors will return and visit us from time to time. So thank you so much, Rachel, for all your work. We're going to turn to our recognition of annual contributors, but before I move away from the slideshow that I have, I thought I would show you some of the visual art that you will see in this year's edition. We put it here together on this page. You'll hear some of the writers and the artists who will be recognized, but I wanted you to be able to see the color art. A number of years ago, we began to print the art in color in our volume. It will be printed in Manchester, and the volume will have color artwork both on the cover and inside the volume. We received a tremendous number of submissions from not only our visual arts students, but others who enjoy producing art. We received some submissions that had to do with the pandemic. The editors were fond of the "I am not a cat," "I am not a cat" image. We have the meringues, are not just meringues, but pandemic meringues, and other pieces that are also representative of some of the programs we have on campus, the architectural rendering and the health professions. Okay. So the next part of our ceremony today is the recognition of each contributor. And I'm going to go back to gallery view so that I can see everyone. I'm not sure if Erin Kahn, the head of our business department, is here today or not. I think he may not be. So I will honor our contributor, and maybe each of our contributors can give us a wave and a shout out so that we can see you as well. Ariel Switzer. So Ariel Switzer submitted a piece of writing that was published in our online pandemic edition and is also being published in print. It's called "Embrace the Change." When the pandemic struck, Ariel was laid off from a job that she truly loved. So not only was she dealing with the effects of the pandemic on her education, but also on her employment. And her title sums it up pretty well: "Embrace the Change." It's very hard to fight a situation that is confronting all of us around the globe. But she really tried to embrace the change and use the time that she was given to make positive changes and to take positive actions in her life. So thanks to Ariel for her piece, "Embrace the Change." I'm going to turn things over to Alan Lindsay for the next section.
Hi,
And
everybody.
Alan is the head of our English department at NHTI.
Yes, and this is a wonderful, wonderful day. I'm so thrilled to be honoring our students. I had one of my most enthusiastic students. Is Katie here today? I've been looking through. I didn't see her screen, but it would be a shame if she was not. Well, I will say this about Katie. She is one of the most enthusiastic students I've ever had. Always a pleasure to have in class, and she is a testament to the wisdom that if you do not know something, ask, right? She asks questions about everything and has, through her amazing persistence, done great things. I've been always very proud of Katie, and she's also one of our English majors, which makes me happy. So congratulations to Katie.
Thank you, Alan. And next is Allison Richardson here. Hi, Allison Richardson is one of our professional advisors, and she may be registering students for classes now that summer and fall registration are open. I will talk a little bit about. She worked closely with James Poulette, who wrote an essay called "Silence in the Snow." I will admit that I was slightly jealous of our ski patrol that they were able to get their vaccines quite early in New Hampshire. And yet I understood the need after having read James Poulette's essay about being a ski patrol member. I'm just going to read you a paragraph from his piece. That will give you a greater appreciation for the ski patrol in our state. He writes about a rescue of a 10-year-old girl who had had a tragic ski accident and was unconscious as he and others raced to help her in this tragic situation. She was eventually transported to Concord Hospital and then airlifted to Dartmouth Hitchcock. We have a great variety of writing, from Alan mentioned Katie's poetic writing to more technical writing. I'll read one paragraph of his. The headlights spotted her. I got to her. I tried to access the mechanism of injury. The patient had apparently skied off the Tubing Park backstop, slipped under the snow fence at the top of the ramp, become airborne crossing over the access road above the heads of the other customers, and landed below the road in a wooded area near the stream. I could see from her tracks that she had hit several trees on her way down the hill. The patient was found supine, head downhill with the top half of her body partially submerged in the stream. She was wearing a helmet. Both skis and poles were missing, and I estimated the age to be 10 years old. She was quiet, but appeared conscious. There were anatomical deformities of her left leg, her right arm, and there were low frequency moans. And I'll skip the next part, but I think that here in New Hampshire, we have really developed a tremendous appreciation during this past year for all workers, that all workers are essential. And our ski patrol in particular, I think that James Poulette gives us a new appreciation for the important work they do caring for people, including our precious children. So thank you to James. Is James here today? And I'll ask Annie Jones, Professor Annie Jones, to honor the next two students.
Well, I'm delighted to recognize my wonderful student, Fisto, that we've already heard about. He's from the DR Congo, and he's actually one of 13 siblings. His first piece was a This I Believe essay called Life is a Seed, which detailed the metaphorical process of life through the imagery of a seed. And then his second contribution was his research paper about the Clean Water Project for Africa. And of course, Fisto, living in 5 different African countries, actually knows firsthand about the struggles in Africa for clean water. This was a well-researched and moving paper. And I thank him very much for his contributions. And then my other student, Travis, he masterfully crafted the struggles of COVID-19 in this very relevant This I Believe essay to inspire us. He began the essay by saying that COVID-19 hit us like a speeding Mack truck. And the essay went all uphill from there, even though COVID-19 went downhill from there. And the essay was chock full of metaphors, similes, and personification to depict this unprecedented pandemic. And so I thank Travis so much too for his works.
Thank you. Now, I promised Professor George Kelly that we would aim for approximately 12:30 to honor his students. So I'm going to go a little bit out of order due to the schedules of some of our attendees, and ask Professor George Kelly to honor his students.
I am begging your indulgence. She isn't with us just yet. So if you wanted to continue, then I could write you a chat.
Okay, that sounds perfect.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thanks. I'm sorry.
That's okay. No.
Busy young. Okay.
I'll ask Dan Houston to honor his students next.
Okay, thank you. And thank you, Paula, and everyone involved with the I for all your work and for putting on this reception, even in this format, which is a little challenging. I missed the applause, by the way. Maybe we should mimic professional baseball that has the canned applause that actually works. So the first person that I'd like to congratulate is Melissa Sprague. And she has already been acknowledged in a number of ways and is well deserving. I often feel at these I receptions like I'm just a figurehead, and even when I'm congratulating students, but it's not that I had anything to do with their success often, And Melissa is a great example of that. She's just she came into the class that she took with me with a ton of talent, and has just continued to express that talent in a number of ways through narratives, research papers, poetry. And I've just really enjoyed reading everything that she's ever written. And so congratulations, Melissa.
And Melissa has several pieces, as we mentioned, several pieces of poetry. One of her poems I really enjoyed as a pandemic theme called Cover Your Mouth. So you'll want to check that one out, along with some really deep researched pieces about the pandemic, about language and linguistics, and about mindfulness. So thank you, Melissa.
Yeah, it's a long list of titles there that's in the side. Nice job. The second person who's published in this piece, who was a former student of mine, is Richard Nolan. And I don't believe he's here today. But Richard is a deep thinker. He thinks outside the box, and he's not afraid to talk about it or write about it. But he does so respectfully, which is great because it expands the conversation. And so I really appreciate his approach to his writing too. And in this case, his piece is called Quarantine Reflections.
I believe that Richard has graduated. He was an IT major, and that's our hope for our students, right? That they will graduate and leave us and go on to do great things. So thanks.
Yeah, yeah. And another former student of mine who I don't think is here is Sarah, and I've never even heard her last name pronounced before. Do you know, Paula, how to pronounce her last name?
I don't.
Okay, yeah. Her piece that's in this upcoming edition is edition. Her piece is called Addiction and Harm Reduction Don't Mix. And Sarah is someone who cares deeply about people's well-being and has a lot of informed opinions about how to achieve well-being. And this piece expresses some of those. She is well prepared to make a difference, I think, in our community and our society when she graduates. So congratulations to Sarah. And then another former student is Carlton McInnes, who has a research paper published in this edition called Head in the Sand. It's about products that are made to have a limited lifespan. And he talks about that as being something we need to address as a society. You know, there's a lot of emphasis placed on recycling and reusing, but not much being done about this practice. And as a writer, he really explores his topics and he takes you on a kind of journey. He's an intelligent person, so as he's sifting his way through information, it's a informative ride to go on. And so congratulations to him as well. And then Cody Ordway is also published in this edition in an essay called A Very Crappy Epidemic. And Cody is always invested in his writing and writes from the heart, which is always refreshing to see. And the last person I'll congratulate today, at least as a former student, is Stephanie Ordway, who is a very open and honest writer and uses a lot of vivid details to really bring her pieces alive. So congratulations to Stephanie as well.
Thank you, Dan. And thanks for all the work you do mentoring students and helping them to learn to be better communicators and writers. And I think Juliana has joined us. I did see that pop up on my screen. So I think I will turn things back over to Professor George Kelly.
Thank you very much. And thank you all professors for allowing me to jump in here. Juliana is working at the hospital and this is her lunch break. So there was no way that she could get out, and this will tell you why. Her essay starts, I held her hand tightly as if she was my grandmother, mother or sister. Then she was gone. In her piece, Juliana Lamalfa tells the reader that she is not looking for applause or a pat on the back for being face to face with this deadly virus. I'm letting you know, she says, I'm just letting you gown up with me and opening the door to the hot zone so you may look at it for yourself. Those who love her remind her that she is strong when she has some second thoughts about participating in this very dangerous work. Then she describes things. The utter silence that consumes the unit makes my ears ring. Looking into my coworker's eyes is like looking into a vulnerable child. Fear, confusion, hesitation, with a thick layer of tears. No one has slept. Yawns and sighs are the conversations of the day. After getting the report on the 24 patients behind the door, our team prepares to enter the hot zone. The agonizing breathing coming from every patient's room sounds like a hideous orchestra being conducted by a monster. She goes toward one patient's room, like I'm an astronaut, weighed down with all my gear, the surgical booties covering my black Adidas that I never dared to bring home, the itchiest blue scrubs that I change into the beginning of every shift. The stiff cotton scratching against my skin at 6 in the morning, a reminder of what I'm about to do for the rest of the hour, for the next 8 hours, I'm sorry. She reaches the room and then she describes an experience that repeats itself over and over every day. Her patient says, "Please take the mask off. I can't live this anymore." She struggles to breathe with every word. Her oxygen level is now 79%. I know she's going.
Would I maybe take that and heat it up in the microwave for you?
No, I'm good.
Thank you for being willing to do that.
Whoop, I don't know. Her hands are now ice cold, and held her children, her grandchildren, and prepared meals for her family. But I'm the one who's holding her hand as she slowly slips away. It's okay, I say. She takes one last breath and she's gone. The sound of the alarms from the heart monitors is our playlist for the day. And the last line, and I'm giving it to you, but I'd like you to read the whole thing because it's just magnificent. I want to tell families who have an empty chair at their dinner table, the brokenhearted, that there are others who took care and continue to take care of them as if they were their own. I get emotional reading that because it's just a magnificent piece. And every time I read it, I kind of tear up. Juliana, you don't know it, but you received a very special award from the editors at the Eye, and I have filmed it, but I wouldn't trust, as you know, my computer skills are not so hot, so I wouldn't trust. Yes, I would. Thank God, Paula, that you're holding that up, that you'll be receiving that. And Miss Sprague, I just want to thank you very much for your additional words about Juliana's piece. And I'm just so proud of her. And you also should be as well. She's a hero. And that's it. I can wait for my next one if you'd like, Paula, for my turn.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
Okay. All right. Then the next piece is called James and Jimmy. And let me read you the opening. Approaching the weathered bar, James pushed open the splintering door. He had heard stories about this place, most not so pleasant, but intriguing nonetheless. The hum of music along with quiet chatter filled the space. He took a few steps and parked himself on an open stool. This begins quite a very interesting piece of fiction. There is all of a sudden a quick confrontation with someone in the bar, and then he meets another person who is also named James. Only this person says, "The name is James as well, lad, but you can call me Jimmy." Almost everybody does. He held out his giant hand in a friendly gesture. It was met with a firm grip from James. What I love about this piece is the wonderful description. He slows down constantly, and this is Timothy Farrington. I don't know if Timothy's with us, but he slows down to really describe things in depth. And then Jimmy asks him what brings him over here to work. And he says, "I want to become a chippy." And we were all confused in class because we had no clue what a chippy was. A chippy is a builder, and Timothy is from Australia. So he had to put in a few notes at the end of his piece to let everybody know exactly what he was talking about, because he mentioned some things we don't know anything about. Finally, we get a really wonderful description of the foreshadowing of what's to come. Simultaneously, the two men stood up from their stools. Jimmy adjusted a tattered jacket over his shoulders, a few holes and tears revealing the wool filling. A breeze met them at the door, causing the hairs to raise on James's arms that were only protected by a thin cotton shirt. Both men's breaths were visible from the light illuminating the entrance to the building. The day must have gotten away from them. Not a dog barking or casual chatter could be heard as the two began to make their way back home. Just the soft breathing from the men. James would catch himself stealing glances at the larger man, who seemed to be looking for something or someone himself. Jimmy would continuously glance over his shoulder, peer down alleyways, and glance at passing cars. James couldn't help but do the same. There was a twisted feeling playing in his gut. What was he looking for? Then he slows down, Tim slows down to show us and puts the reader in the middle of a very violent climax that is replete with careful and gripping description. Timothy is and was a conscientious writer. His good writing comes as a result of rewriting, continuous rewriting. And if I could teach anything, that's what I wanted to teach. And he grasped it immediately. So all I can say is that he gets it. And I hope you'll read James and Jimmy. So congratulations to you, Tim. Magnificent work. Thank you.
Thank you. And I don't know if all of our participants here know that Professor George Kelly is a wonderful writer in his own right. I've had the pleasure of seeing his plays on the actual physical stage in Concord, as well as online. I think it was a playhouse in Connecticut that was performing one of your plays. So thank you
Yes.
for your good work and the ways. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank
And the
you.
check is in the mail.
Thank you. I'm going to turn it over to Professor Dave Edwards to honor some of his student writers.
Thank you, Paula. Unlike Professor Houston, I, of course, take all credit for my students' successes. So you're welcome. My first, my first honoree, my first published student is RJ. I believe he was fall 2020 when the pandemic was getting in full swing. And he wrote a really moving piece called Music and Mental Health, My Story. It was the first essay that I encountered with him in class. He wrote, I want to say it was a good 6-7 pages for a 5-page assignment, where he really went after the idea that if you're struggling with anxiety, if you're struggling with depression, there are a lot of different solutions. The solution that he fortunately found was the expression through music. And it ultimately becomes a story of hope and a story of survival. So I highly encourage that you check it out. It's a good one. The second student is from my, we were spring, hi Rachel, I see you up there. We were spring 2020, and our class basically got chopped in half by the shutdown. So we went from meeting once a week in class to kind of doing this weird hybrid-y online discussion thing. And my students did amazing. They transitioned just as you would hope they would. And it was a challenging class. It's a class about technology, and we read books about it and all kinds of short stories and essays. I throw the kitchen sink at the students, some pretty heady works. Rachel managed to pull all of what I assigned together in her final paper. I didn't ask her to do that. I was expecting her to write about maybe 2 pieces. Instead, she wrote about probably 8, I think, including a couple books. She just put it all together. So what humanity's dependence on technology could mean for our future is a pretty fascinating read. And if you were ever interested in what goes on in some of the classes around here, this is pretty much like a summary or an overview of what our class worked with. She came up with a pretty challenging thesis and defended it well. So good job, Rachel. My next student, I believe, was also fall 2020. Sherry, you've amazingly and awesomely been honored with an Editor's Choice Award because you rock. Good job. That was A Life Without a Home. She also submitted and got published as Having Access to Guns Puts Someone at Risk of Killing, which is obviously a pretty timely topic for all of us. She did wonderful research, and it's a passionate overview of the problem of gun control and where we should be with that. So thank you, Sherry. Who else is on my list? Oh yeah, new student, Nate Winslow. He's been in my class, what semester are we in? Spring 2021. So he's in my spring 2021. There you are. And I see you have a companion today. Hello, companion. Nate has been wonderful to work with, super responsible. He's always in class. He's always commenting. I actually have him in 2 classes this semester. You're welcome, Rachel. So he's fascinated by technology. He's also fascinated by Lovecraft. So his first paper in our class, My Hobby of Horrors, which sounds pretty messed up, but don't worry, he's sane. His Hobby of Horrors is a vivid depiction of his first encounter with Lovecraft, thank you, Sherry, through the RPG Lovecraftian adventure, The Call of Cthulhu or something like, no, it's did I get it wrong? I messed it up. Anyway, he read it because it's pretty fascinating. He'll explain the whole thing to you. And he's writing another paper about Lovecraft. So I'm going to learn more about Lovecraft this semester than I probably ever wanted to, right, Nate? And that's Nate. Thank you, Nate. Finally, I've got Madison Downing, who was also in Rachel's class, where we read all sorts of weird stuff, including a novel that I keep insisting everyone around me read because I'm obsessed with it. It's about artificial intelligence, and Madison decided she didn't like it. Not that she didn't like the book, she just didn't like the idea of me defending an artificial intelligence on the grounds of how the author Richard Powers does. So she threw this thesis back in my face, The Failure of ImpH. And as hard as I pushed her, what about this? What about this? She said, well, what about this? And she made me shut up a little bit. So good job, Madison. I see several other faces of former students. I'm so proud of all of you for being here and making this publication possible. Big applause to all of you. My speaker's on, so you can hear me clap. Woo! Thanks, guys.
Thank you. I do know you've had many of the other students in your classes throughout the years. So thank you, Dave. The next honoree wrote her paper for an economics class, and I think sometimes when I invite our economics faculty to be part of this, it's a little bit unusual. We have a lot of English faculty, and I think I see is Ed Doherty here? Maybe he's not here. So you've already heard many kind words about Rachel Pitt, who is one of our I editors and has contributed her writing over her time at NHTI. In the past, she has written about the success of adult learners coming back to school later in life, and the many elements of that experience that contribute to success and have contributed to her own success. She's written narrative essays about her experiences as a college student, as well as her love for her family and for her native England. The piece that she has featured this year, again, was written for an economics class, and it's called Seattle, Washington. It's a regional market analysis that delves into the economy, economic success and economic decline, and makes good use of figures, of charts and graphs and data, which is something so important to make data-informed decisions. So thank you to Rachel for this, which will likely be her final contribution to the I. I hope you will check it out. Reading it made me want to travel to Seattle, but that might just be the travel itch that is lurking in me in this pandemic year. So thank you to Rachel Pitt. Is Kate Marcoulier, our faculty member, Kate Marcoulier, here? Back in the spring, as the pandemic was taking hold and the I editors had the idea of doing a special pandemic edition, initially online, and then it appears as a special pandemic section in this book with all kinds of writing, from poetry, narratives, research, interviews about this global pandemic, that our faculty member, Kate Marcoulier, she submitted a photo of all, well, not all, that would be a very big picture, of many of our allied health students, our radiology students, thanking their mentors at their clinical sites. And I had a list of the students, some of whom are still attending at NHTI, some of whom have graduated and gone on to their careers in allied health fields. It's quite a time to do that. So I just wanted to read the names of those students that Kate had shared with me. So the photo that you saw, that last photo of the slideshow of the students thanking those at their clinical sites, includes Lisa Scarnari, Julie Gulo, Rebecca Forbes, Megan Kennick, Taryn Antuno, Taylor Bienvenu, Madison Waller, Justice Graff, Kiara Smith, Catherine Wells, and there are some others who have gone on and graduated. So thank you to all those students. I think that gratitude is so important in these times. Is Liz Corbeck Emerson here?
I am.
Liz, would you like to say a few words about Carol's piece?
I would love to. So I had Carol in my mindful introduction to literature course last fall, and I will just say across the board, she always went above and beyond for every assignment that I gave the whole class. But particularly in the assignment, which was a day in the life, which we called the Empathy Project, and students were invited to pick a piece of writing that we were working with in the course or something else. And of course, Carol went with something else and brought her real depth of experience and writing and insight to this piece. And it was a really lovely and controversial. So it goes without saying with Carol. So I just want to congratulate Carol on her publication of the Day in the Life piece.
Thank you. And Carol has also been an editor of the Eye, helping us with some of our events, attending our open mics, contributing her writing. So thank you so much, Carol. I consider Carol a friend outside of NHTI, someone I've known before she became a student, and I'm just so glad to have this connection through the Eye as well. Thank you, Carol. I don't believe that Margaret Landsman is here. I think she could not be here today. Margaret Landsman teaches both in our English department and in the ESOL department. One of her students, Spencer Ahern, has had published a piece that feels really relevant this year. We're on Zoom after all. Digital seems to be the place where we're spending more and more of our time. Spencer Ahern's piece is called "Digital Killed the Physical Media." And the title really drew me in. I'll just read a couple of sentences. You'll want to read it yourself. Entertainment now more than ever is at the tip of everyone's finger. With the press of a button, you can listen to, watch, read, or play almost anything. Less than 20 years ago, you either had to go to a physical store and buy or rent the media you wanted, or use one of the few sources to get rentals mailed to you. I guess we can all remember that, right? People's physical collections of movies, music, and games have stopped growing with the ease of keeping a digital library and all that media. This ease of access comes with a risk. You don't own your digital libraries. So it's really, as he digs beneath that surface of the tools that we use in our lives, down to explore the licensing issues, the choices that we make, and balance some of those issues with the ease of access. Important issues, especially in 2021. Thank you to Spencer and to Margaret. I don't think that Valerie Eaton-White is here. But I did see that David Kay is here. David Kay submitted a piece that he wrote for a class, Professor Eaton White's class. The piece is called "Why Americans Are Reluctant to Wear Masks During a Pandemic." Feels like an important topic these days, doesn't it? And I'm just going to scroll over to his piece. So this is a topic, I think that when at the point when David Kay wrote this, it felt really like a cutting edge topic. People were really weighing the choices they make and how they affect themselves personally, and how they affect other people around them. One of the things I particularly liked about David's piece was the way he incorporated interviews with many people. He didn't just share his own point of view or the research. Some of that research was recently shared in a student symposium that we had. But David really dived into exploring with others that firsthand experience and the psychology of why people choose to wear masks or don't, which is clearly a tool that has the ability to affect all of us. I was just going to read a little piece of. It's quite an opus. With the interviews, with the sources that he used. But I'll just read you the first couple of sentences. Why are Americans reluctant to wear masks during a pandemic? To answer this, I will look at what a disease is, historical context for other pandemics, and compare how the rest of the world is currently reacting to COVID compared to how the United States is reacting. So he sets the stage, really taking what many of us faculty would like, not just a superficial look, but a really deep look at an important and timely issue. So thank you so much, David, for contributing light to a topic that has raised a lot of heat in our world. Is Richard Gardzina here? Richard Gardzina is a music faculty member, and I think that many of us could say words about Brian Melendi's writing. You've heard praise for him as an editor, as the president of the I, as an organizer of events. I'll say a few words about Brian's pieces. Brian wrote what really was becoming a trilogy, 3 parts in tracking the strange events of the last year. And I think that many of us, we don't take the time to sit down and to journal and then to craft those journal pages into a polished piece. I'm really impressed with the way that Brian has done that. So he has a series of pieces published. One is called Just Like Low Budget Sci-Fi. One is Stranger Than Fiction, and that could be the title of 2020, Stranger Than Fiction, I think. And one of my favorites, maybe just as a fellow vinyl lover, is called Old Scratchy Records. We've had a few meetings where we have listened to music in the background on vinyl. One of our editors, Hope Davids, even held up an album cover, and I held up the same album cover. So I've noticed a trend that there is an appreciation for history, for music, for the arts, for ideas, for deep thinking. And in Brian's case, really sitting down, putting literally pen to paper, and then turning to his computer to craft these polished pieces. I've also, and other faculty and staff from NHTI, have had the joy of hearing Brian read some of these pieces at open mics, both on campus and in the community. So his appreciation of the written word as well as the vinyl album runs deep. Brian is also being recognized today for some visual art. It's the 2nd edition of the I, in which he has 2 pieces of visual art as well. So thank you, Brian, for not just your editing, but your writing as well. Do we have Susan Haas here today? When I look at the list of participants, I see some people with initials, and so I'm not always sure. Susan Haas is the department chair of our visual arts program. You've had the joy of seeing our visual arts shared on the screen earlier in my PowerPoint presentation. Again, the talent that we have is amazing. It's very hard to pick just one to be on the cover. So I would just like to read the names of our visual artists, each of whom has one or more pieces published. We have Alyssa Desjardins for The Architect's View, Caitlin Clark for Rain on a Thursday, Mariah Sanborn for Emphasis Owl, Triangle Plant Cutout, and Youth. You can find that one online, the black and white portrait of a youth wearing a face mask. Julia Dupuis for self-portraits, those vibrant reds and teals of the self-portraits, often with face masks. Elizabeth Dunn for Melado en la Cuidad, a beautiful dancing piece. Madison Burke for Sinister Sneer and Woodland Serenity, the squirrel that you saw earlier. Corinne Langford for Pastel Self-Portrait, Coffee and Ink Wash. Molly Della Valle for The Banty Rooster, Grandpop's Guitar, Global Pandemic, that features the globe, and the Pandemic Meringues. You saw the Editor's Choice Award for Annabelle Coutrebasse, A Fragment of 2020. Emily Dallaire for her cover art, Shattered. And as I mentioned, Brian Melendi for one piece that is untitled. And I think the other one is Tiger. I always forget if it's Tiger or Panther. So thank you for the visual art. And next, I get the pleasure of honoring some students, excuse me, who submitted writing without listing a professor. I think there's tremendous beauty in that. People don't just write for academic reasons. And this is true of some of the other writing as well. People write, there's a human impulse to communicate, to share ideas, to tell stories. So I'll be honoring those students as well as some students that I've had the pleasure of having in class. Denise Lesnick is a student, an adult learner who returned to school. I had the pleasure of having her in many classes, including my creative nonfiction class. And she had a piece featured, a nonfiction piece featured last year that she had written for that class. This year, she has a piece she wrote for our call that we made about race and social change. And so Denise's poem is called How Could Anyone Compete? The next student I'd like to honor is a student I've gotten to know really well over the last couple of years, Anne Albert. Last year, we honored a piece of Anne's writing, and I know that Anne is here. It was a really special year last year, not for the reasons you might think, but Anne's writing was published and her mother's writing was published in our past favorites section. So it was really lovely to feature the writing of both a mother and a daughter and to hear about the ways that they both write and talk about their writing. Anne, who is also a student entering the nursing profession, the health profession, has not slacked off in her writing at all during this past year. She has 3 pieces published. The first is a piece called The Good Kind of Guilty. And I just learned from Anne this week that it's been accepted to be published at an online publication. I think the name of it is Her Story. So congratulations to Anne for not just being published with us, but for another publication publishing that as well. I think that Anne's piece is an interesting piece. We've included some content warnings this year. Anne's piece talks about a court case she was part of to do with a sexual assault in which the perpetrator was convicted. And near the bottom of her piece, she talks about the statistics of how many people are assaulted each year, how many people are arrested, how many cases go to trial, and how many people are convicted. And I think, as you can imagine, those numbers are quite small, the number of people who are held accountable for tremendous acts of violence. So I applaud Anne's bravery, her courage in writing this piece called The Good Kind of Guilty. Anne has another piece published called Sisters United, about being united with a sister, and the tremendous joy of meeting a sister for the first time. And Anne's third piece is called You've Got This. Those are words that she hears while on the phone with 911. She's providing CPR to someone who is in crisis with an overdose. And while waiting for the EMTs to arrive, she does what it takes to save that person's life. And I think that the wisdom of finding strength in herself, strength in difficult situations, is something that will carry Anne far in her profession as a health professional, as a writer, as a parent, and in life. So thank you so much, Anne, for sharing your writing with us. Karen DeRosier, is Karen here today? Karen DeRosier is a student who was in my creative nonfiction class, and she has 2 pieces published, one called Holding Your Hand and one called Until It's You. Karen wrote a piece about going to work, and while going through the everyday tasks that so many of us go through, work and family, driving our cars, she is also dealing with the loss of a loved one. And I found that the beauty in her piece is not just in the day-to-day details, but in the details about that loved one, the person that they were, what they meant to her in her childhood and as an adult, the blue shirts they would wear, the texture of the fabric. And so congratulations to Karen for being published and for capturing those meaningful details that make up the fabric of our lives. So thank you, Karen. And her second piece is a poem. I'd like to honor Parrish Mahoney, and I think I saw that Parrish is here. Parrish is a student who's been in several of our writing classes. We've gotten to know him as a writer. Parrish is a wonderful writer. And maybe it's a cliche to say that the writing that is published here, an essay called The Deck, is truly the tip of the iceberg of all the amazing writing that Parrish has done. Parrish has done some incredible writing. I'm going to read a little bit of his essay, The Deck. And the paragraph that I wanted to read, Before I read the paragraph, I'll read, Parrish has a wonderful way with dialogue. I think that dialogue just makes writing come to life so much. And it probably wouldn't make much sense if I just randomly picked out bits of dialogue, like, dude, we should put that on our YouTube video. But Parrish's dialogue really comes out, as well as his description. The way he captures the people in his life has so much beauty to it. But I'm going to read when he gets to the part where he talks about the deck. Maybe in these days of social distancing, we've enjoyed those places where we would traditionally get together with friends and family. Parrish writes, the deck means freedom, being able to sit out, enjoy other people's company, and not be under any stress from work or school is so relaxing. The hard work all winter long has finally paid off, but it comes with a price. SPF 50 doesn't seem strong enough to block the sunburn on my neck and shoulders. There is a shortage of ice in the freezer. The rule is 1 inch of water for 6 inches of ice cubes per cup. And there are flies everywhere. Derek didn't clean the dog poop from the yard, so the flies are feasting on an all-you-can-eat buffet. There's a fight over why there needs to be another shopping trip to Target, because Meredith and Lucy have only gone twice this week. The kids are begging to go inside and play video games instead of enjoying the outdoors, but Lucy's firm no assures them that they will not get to. The ice in my coffee is melting so fast, it's turning into a hot coffee, and it's gross. But despite all of this, it's a great place to be. So that's just one paragraph of Parrish's writing. And I know we've talked about before, a paragraph can feel like a mini essay all unto itself, right? You really get that sense of what the deck means to him, all the pieces of it, positive, negative, questionable, and then his tremendous appreciation for getting to be in this place. So thank you so much, Parrish, for contributing your writing to the Eye this year. We hope you will again in the future. Rebecca Nahn, a few years ago, Rebecca had her art featured on the cover of the Eye, a beautiful array of birds, a multimedia illustration, and you get to experience some of Rebecca's really powerful artwork. She's a true artist. Mother of Us All and Out of the Blue. She has 2 poems, It Took Me To, about the Me Too movement, and it's a powerful, gritty, hard to read at times because of the struggles that individuals experience in this life. And she's been awarded an Editor's Choice Award for her essay, her poem, Proper Love. And I was just going to read the first stanza. The first stanza says, when I say I have an underdeveloped self-esteem, what I mean is being loved improperly has made it all too easy to accept improper loving. And I'll read just one line that stood out to me further in her exploration of love and sensuality and what it means to love well. I think that there's no more important part of life really than to love others well. The other line that stood out for its imagery was tangled in heartstrings, welded into golden rings of infinity. So I like that image of being tangled in heartstrings. Thank you to Rebecca for sharing her writing and art with us. And I see Rebecca is here today. Thank you, Rebecca. Rebecca also participated in our Making Sense of COVID Student Symposium recently, and she made an amazing video called Art as Glue, How We Hold It Together, sharing artwork from previous pandemics, as well as an exploration of art produced during this pandemic, and some of her own artwork as well. It was an amazing work, and I'm grateful to Rebecca for all she contributes to our campus community. Next, we put out this call for pieces about race and social change, and we received some pieces. I know this is another week where race and social change is omnipresent as we turn our attention to Minneapolis again and to so many other places. Emily's piece, when I saw the title, I was so eager to read it. Emily McKenney wrote a piece called How to Talk to Racist Family Members. After she talks about dealing with conflicting ideas, perhaps stopping, not engaging in conversation, she comes to a part that I found really poignant that I thought I would read a short piece of it. She writes about educating ourselves, the importance of educating ourselves to have these conversations. It is necessary to educate yourself. The best advice I ever received was to learn, read books, watch movies, listen to music, and find documentaries created by people of color. It is not your place to ask them how racism has affected them. The evidence is already there in the form of art and literature. You need to realize that as a white person, you have privilege. Your skin color grants you a pass to avoid hardships and stereotypes that people of color face on a day-to-day basis. Accept it. As you're taking in all this information, ask yourself difficult questions. When have you been guilty of racism? What have you done to unlearn racist tendencies? What are you going to do moving forward as an ally? And she encourages all of us to give deep thought to these important issues. So I really appreciate Emily tackling this important issue. They say there are some things you can't talk about at the Thanksgiving table with your family. I think it's getting to be a longer and longer list every day, but maybe race, sex, religion, politics, the list goes on. And yet the I is the antithesis of that. We really welcome these conversations, thinking about these difficult topics that exist in our world. The next piece, it was published in our spring online edition. You can find it online and it's really unique. Jim Black is an NHTI alumni. He's been a college instructor. He's been an advisor to many of our students through our Academic Center for Excellence. And he wrote a piece called A View from a Higher Place. I hope you'll go to our website, NHTEYE. NHTI, NHTEYE.com, and you'll be able to click and hear the music he composed during the pandemic and other music by him. So I hope you will check that one out. Thanks to Jim Black for sharing a musical piece, a piece with music. And I think the last piece that I have to recognize is a student who has since moved. I don't believe she's able to be here with us today. Her name is Nellie Peterson. And it seems like a really fitting piece to end with. Nellie Peterson lived on campus and she wrote an essay for our online edition about the pandemic called Essential People. I think really we come to the conclusion that we are all essential people and that working together is a task that we have. During the pandemic, we celebrate the essential workers that put their lives on the line every day for us. There are men and women that work as police officers, firefighters, paramedics, nurses, doctors, and hospital staff. I want to take a moment not to discount these people, but instead to celebrate the essential people in our lives that are all around us that do not get recognition. These people are Clark Kents every day. But when times are tough, they become supermen and superwomen. They are our families, friends, and people that just care about each other and their well-being. Here at NHTI, we have such people that walk among us every day and never ask for anything in return. When I walk the halls at midnight, I get greeted by such a Clark Kent. He is going all around South Hall, disinfecting the elevator, wiping down the railings to the stairs, cleaning the door handles. He comes out when everyone is fast asleep in their beds during a time few would even see him. This essential person is someone we see every day. He is a friend to some, a boyfriend to another, and a peer to many others. Most importantly, he is essential in the lives of more people than recognize him. And she writes about many of these people in her own experience, who are essential people. Is there anybody that we missed? I think we have recognized all of our contributors. So copies of the I will be sent out to all of our contributors. Everyone receives one free copy in the mail. It has the artwork printed in color. If you have a new address, please let me know so it doesn't get lost in the mail. Or if you are somebody who comes to campus and would like to pick it up while you're on campus, let me know and I can leave it for you. Copies will then be for sale in the NHTI bookstore. They will be $20 a copy. And if you're looking to buy more than one, let me know. There could be a bulk discount if you buy more than one. I'm happy to get them to you, whatever that looks like. So thank you to our NHTI administrators, some of whom are here today. I see some of our faculty and advisors. If I try to say everyone, I will miss some names. I see Don Higgins, who has been such a mentor to many, many, many of our students. There's Don waving to us. I saw our president a little while ago, Gretchen Mullen-Savitsky, and others. We're here to support you as students, as writers. And I feel like it's always really important for me to point out that you can join the I and you can become an editor with the I. We have been meeting in Zoom. We'll continue meeting in Zoom. So please do reach out to me. You have my email. It's important, yes, to keep the tradition of the I going. Brian puts it very well in the chat. Some people say it's an advantage that we travel to events in Boston and New York. We have events on campus, bonfires by the boat launch with s'mores. We have a lot of wonderful events, and somebody once compared us to, if you like watching American Idol, if you like to read submissions and say what you think of them, what you think the good parts were, and maybe what could be tweaked. That the I is the place for you. You can come be an editor with us. So thank you all for being here today. I will see where the recording winds up. Somebody asked where the recording will be. I'll post it somewhere for those who would like to see it. So thank you everyone for being here today. I saw also Luis Rosa, who was my co-advisor in the fall. And so I'd like to also thank, there's so many people to thank, Luis Rosa, who was my co-advisor in the fall, and all of our faculty, staff, and students who contribute to making the I what it is. So thank you, everyone.